realized I had the choice every single day to save over 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forested land, the equivalent of 20 pounds of CO2, and one animal's life every single day.
Veganism is the most powerful tool that we have for saving our planet, for ending world hunger, for improving our health when we eat health consciously, and for regaining our compassion, for becoming the people that we believe ourselves to be, good people.
We all say we love animals, and we all are against animal cruelty, but we pay people to mutilate, torture, and slaughter animals.
They can sense the fear, they can smell the blood, and they fight. They fight to the end. In my years of being vegan and speaking with many, many non-vegans, I have yet to hear one reason that even comes close to justifying putting a sentient being through what we just watched. Not one.
And it's not for any necessity. It's not because we need to for our health. It's just because we like the way they taste.
And these creatures have never harmed you, violated you, or taken advantage of you in any way, shape, or form. The least you can do is return the favor.
I'm a vegan, which means I don't participate in any animal exploitation or cruelty. I don't consume any animal products. And I wanted to show people through my journey and my writing on the blog just how easy that is to do, how healthy it is.
These are the top 15 causes of death, the top 15 reasons Americans die. And a plant-based diet can help prevent nearly all of them, can help treat more than half of them, and in some cases even reverse the progression of disease, including our top 3 killers.
And our Cornell and Harvard say that the optimal amount of meat in a healthy human diet is precisely 0.
They're killing you, they're killing the animals, and they're killing this planet.
We don't need to eat animals. We benefit every conceivable way from not eating them.
This is a chance for a personal revolution, to leave your mark on this planet by causing the least amount of harm possible.
As I travel around the world, I see poor countries who sell their grain to the West while their own children starve in their arms, and the West feeds it to livestock.
And good people don't take food from the mouths of starving children. Good people don't destroy the planet, leaving our children futureless. Good people don't kill newborn babies. Good people don't rape, torture, or murder. Yet good people everywhere are doing all of these things with every single bite. But we have the power to stop all of this, and that is the beauty of veganism. It happens on an individual basis.
And here's something you can stand up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a day and say, I'm opposed to discrimination. I'm opposed to injustice. And that's why I'm eating vegan meals. This is something you can actually do.
You are the change. You decide what goes in your body. You decide whether you want to continue to have others kill for you. You decide whether you want to continue consuming death, terror, and heartbreak. You decide. And my hope is that you'll decide to go vegan.
To nurses who make a difference every day. Chamberlain University.
The path is not to completely imagine it.
Satisfies something buried deep. Humans keep a lot of animals for food. Currently, about 23 billion chickens, 1.5 billion cattle, and roughly 1 billion pigs and sheep. That's a lot of mouths to feed, so we've transformed Earth into a giant feeding ground. 83% of its farmland is used for crops like corn and soy. That's 26% of Earth's total land area. If we include the water we need for these plants, meat and dairy production accounts for 27% of global freshwater consumption. Unfortunately, meat production is like a black hole for resources. Since animals are living things, most of their food is used to keep them alive while they grow their tasty parts. Only a fraction of the nutrients from fodder crops end up in the meat we buy in the end. Cows, for example, convert only about 4% of the proteins and 3% of the calories of the plants we feed to them into beef. More than 97% of the calories are lost to us. To create 1 kilogram of steak, a cow needs to eat up to 25 kilos of grain and uses up to 15,000 liters of water. Animal products are guzzling up tons of food, but they only make up 18% of the calories humans eat. According to projections, we could nourish an additional 3.5 billion people if we just ate the stuff we feed to animals. To make our favorite food group even more unsustainable, about 15% of all greenhouse gas emissions caused by humans are created by the meat industry, as much as by all ships, planes, trucks and cars combined. And there's another aspect to meat. It comes from actual living beings. Pigs, cattle and chicken are not the ones writing the history books, but if they were, humans would appear as rampant genocidal maniacs that thrive on suffering. Globally, we kill about 200 million animals every day, about 74 billion a year. This means that every 1.5 years, we kill more animals than people have lived in the entire 200,000-year history of humanity. One could argue that we're doing them a favor. After all, they wouldn't exist without us. We might eat them in the end, but we also provide food and shelter and the gift of existence to them. Unfortunately, we're not very nice gods. A lot of our meat comes from factory farms, huge industrial systems that house thousands of animals. Possible, they have little regard. Cows are kept in pens too small to turn around, where they give birth to one litter of piglets after another until it's their turn to be turned into bacon. Dairy cows are forced to breed continually to ensure their milk supply, but are separated from their calves hours after birth. To fatten up beef cattle for slaughter, they're put in feedlots, confined pens where they can't roam, and put on weight more quickly. To make it possible to keep them so tightly together without dying of diseases, the majority of antibiotics we use are for livestock, up to 80% in the US, which helps in the short term, but also fuels antibiotic resistances. But the ones that may have got the worst deal are chickens. In factory farms, they're kept in such vast numbers and so close to each other that they can't form the social structures they have in nature, so they start attacking each other. To stop that, we cut their beaks and claws. Male chickens are deemed worthless since they can't lay eggs and are not suitable for meat production. So within minutes after birth, they're usually gassed and shredded in grinders. Several 100 million baby chickens are killed this way each year. Even if you had a personal score to settle with chickens, how we treat them is beyond broken. So, better buy organic meat, where animals are treated nicely, right? Organic farming regulations are designed to grant animals a minimum of comfort. The problem is that organic is an elastic term. According to EU regulations, an organic hen still might share 1 square meter of space with 5 others. That's a long way off from happy farmyard chickens. Farms that sincerely do their best do exist, of course. But meat is still a business. An organic label is a way to charge more money, and countless scandals have revealed producers looking for ways to cheat the system. And while organic meat might be less cruel, it needs even more resources than conventional meat production. So buying organic is still preferable, but does not grant you moral absolution. The truth is, if suffering were a resource, we would create billions of tons of it per year. The way we treat animals will probably be one of the things future generations will look down on in disgust.
Hey, now that the cute dogs have your attention, let me ask you something. You love animals, right?
The past is not something that's out of their throat and their leg. What I'm talking about is a few bad people. What have we created? Obviously. You drown everyone, just to be honest. I think the animal issue is enough. Such a thing. Let's just have a look at what we have collectively created, including the good people who haven't done enough. They haven't said no. They haven't led the way. They haven't showed people what's going on and this has to stop. Not enough, obviously. That's the facts. For them to admit that, for everyone just to be honest about the reality of what we've created. And I still think the animal issue is enough. To think we have such a thing called a slaughterhouse? Where people are employed to grab an animal, use electric prods to force it to go where they want, to jam bolts in their heads, to slice their throats up, hang them from chains and watch them die as blood drips out of their throat and their legs kick desperately. To think that even exists in the numbers that it does. We're not talking about there's a few bad people around that do that. We're talking about this is the norm. If we can't stop and look at that and say, holy crap, what have we done? If we can't face that, we will not be able to face anything. And that can only happen if we forget the past, because in the past is where all of our justifications were created. That's why it's like that. So the past creates a deluded sense of glasses to look through, and then we can tell ourselves anything. I guarantee you, if you could just plonk everyone completely in this moment, but not in a moment for self-indulgent, like this living in the now, where we're like, you know, oh, I just can be happy and free, and, you know, they don't run around being compassionate. I'm talking about living in the now via looking at the truth and how ugly it has become. That's a different kind of being in the now. That's a wake-up being in the now. I'm convinced that would do it if we just look. Forget theories, forget philosophies, forget possibilities, forget psychology, forget everything. Just honestly look at what we have done. Because I think deep down everyone cares, because you can see they care for certain things. So the caring is there. They would like to care. They would like to be loved. They would like to give love. Every living being, you can see that. Every animal, you give it a chance to be loved, it just laps it up. It loves it and it loves the whole process. Everything does. But we'll never ever feel that or share that if we're not prepared to look at the insane cruelty that we've created on this planet.
Statistics show that as many as 140 billion animals are killed every year for human consumption as food, clothing, and even those that are so-called free range or raised on organic farms are still subjected to be killed against their will. No living creature wishes to die, and death is arguably the greatest fear of any human. Yet we subject 3 billion living creatures every week to our most feared fate. We unnecessarily feed and clothe ourselves and our children with the products of cruel and violent habits.
At H&R Block, you know the price before you begin.
As your own. That what I am involves what you are. I don't know who I am unless I know who you are. And you don't know who you are unless you know who I am. There was a wise rabbi once said, if I am I because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I am not I and you are not you. In other words, we are not separate. We define each other. We're all backs and fronts to each other. You know, you can't, for example, have two sticks. You lean two sticks against each other and they stand up because they support each other. Take one away and the other falls. They interdepend. And so in exactly that way, we and our environment, and all of us and each other, are interdependent systems. We know who we are in terms of other people. We all lock together. And this is, again and again, the serious scientific description of how things happen. And any good scientist knows therefore, that what you call the external world is as much you as your own body. Your skin doesn't separate you from the world. It's a bridge through which the external world flows into you, and you flow into it. Just, for example, as a whirlpool in water, you could say, because you have a skin, you have a definite shape, you have a definite form, right? Here is a flow of water, and it does a whirlpool. Then it goes on. The whirlpool is a definite form, but no water stays put in it. The whirlpool is something the stream is doing. And exactly the same way, the whole universe is doing each one of us. And I see you today, and I recognize you tomorrow, just as I would recognize a whirlpool in a stream. I'd say, oh yes, I've seen that whirlpool before. It's just near so-and-so's house on the edge of the river. It's always there. So in the same way, when I meet you tomorrow, I recognize you. You're the same whirlpool you were yesterday. But you're moving. The whole world is moving through you. All the cosmic rays, all the food you're eating, the stream of steaks and milk and eggs and everything is just flowing right through you. When you're wiggling the same way, the world is wiggling, the stream is wiggling you. But the problem is, you see, we haven't been taught to feel that way. The myths underlying our culture and underlying our common sense have not taught us to feel identical with the universe, but only parts of it, only in it, only confronting it, aliens. And we are, I think, quite urgently in need of coming to feel that we are the eternal universe, each one of us. Otherwise, we're going to go out of our heads. We're going to commit suicide, collectively, with courtesy of H-bombs. And, all right, suppose...
Everything's on sale.
Problem is, you see, parts of it only have nothing quite
a sense of unity, not an idea of unity, not an ideology of unity, because if there ever was an ideology of unity, it was communism, and the pieces are still falling from the explosion of that system of thought. We need a feeling of unity, so it doesn't come out of intellectual exhortation. It comes out of a personal act of courage made by the individual, an act of courage which involves surrender. Surrender is the opposite side of the coin of ego. The central issue of our times is our inability to surrender to what we know is right. We have the ability to feed the hungry. We have the ability to educate our children, to clean up our environment, to eliminate sexism, to eliminate racism. The question is, can we change our minds fast enough?
The hour is late. The clock is ticking. We will be judged very harshly if we fumble the ball. We are the inheritors of millions and millions of years of successfully lived lives and successful adaptations to changing conditions in the natural world. Now the challenge passes to us, the living, that the yet to be born may have a place to put their feet and a sky to walk under. Let's not whore ourselves to nitwit ideologies. Let's not give our control over to the least among us. Rather, claim your place in the sun and go forward into the light. The tools are there. The path is known. You simply have to turn your back on a culture that has gone sterile and dead and get with the program of a living world and a re-empowerment of the imagination.
I realized I had the choice every single day to save over 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forested land, the equivalent of 20 pounds of CO2, and one animal's life, every single day.
Veganism is the most powerful tool that we have for saving our planet, for ending world hunger, for improving our health when we eat health consciously, and for regaining our compassion, for becoming the people that we believe ourselves to be, good people.
We have more in the back.
We all say we love animals, and we all are against animal cruelty, but we pay people to mutilate, torture, and slaughter animals.
They can sense the fear, they can smell the blood, and they fight. They fight to the end. In my years of being vegan and speaking with many, many non-vegans, I have yet to hear one reason that even comes close to justifying putting a sentient being through what we just watched. Not one.
And it's not for any necessity. It's not because we need to for our health. It's just because we like the way they taste.
And these creatures have never harmed you, violated you, or taken advantage of you in any way, shape, or form. The least you can do is return the favor.
I'm a vegan, which means I don't participate in any animal exploitation or cruelty. I don't consume any animal products. And I wanted to show people through my journey and my writing on the blog just how easy that is to do, how healthy it is.
These are the top 15 causes of death, the top 15 reasons Americans die. And a plant-based diet can help prevent nearly all of them, can help treat more than half of them, and in some cases even reverse the progression of disease, including our top 3 killers.
And our Cornell and Harvard say that the optimum amount of meat in a healthy human diet is precisely 0.
They're killing you, they're killing the animals, and they're killing this planet.
We don't need to eat animals. We benefit in every conceivable way from not eating them.
This is a chance for a personal revolution to leave your mark on this planet by causing the least amount of harm possible.
As I travel around the world, I see poor countries who sell their grain to the West while their own children starve in their arms, and the West feeds it to livestock.
And good people don't take food from the mouths of starving children. Good people don't destroy the planet, leaving our children futureless. Good people don't kill newborn babies. Good people don't rape, torture, or murder. Yet good people everywhere are doing all of these things with every single bite.
I'm in love with it.
But we have the power to stop all of this, and that is the beauty of veganism. It happens on an individual basis.
And here's something you could stand up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a day and say, I'm opposed to discrimination. I'm opposed to injustice. And that's why I'm eating vegan meals. This is something you can actually do.
You are the change. You decide what goes in your body. You decide whether you want to continue to have others kill for you. You decide whether you want to continue consuming death, terror, and heartbreak. You decide. And my hope is that you'll decide to go vegan.
I really hope you make the right choice.
We have to have a vision. I don't mean a plan. I don't mean an agenda. I mean a vision. The vision comes from above. It comes from, call it the unconscious, call it the Gaian mind, call it the Great Spirit. It doesn't come out of committee meetings and the data gathered by statistical analysis. We lack at the highest level, not you and not me, but at the controlling level, we lack a vision. The best leaders among us are no more than crisis managers, attempting to manage us past an apocalypse that they are coming to believe is inevitable. That isn't good enough. That's not what my daddy raised me for, and it's not what your daddy raised you for. We represent the cutting edge of novelty in the biological world. Our self-reflective consciousness is our great glory. It also opens for us a dimension of moral responsibility unknown to the rest of the denizens of nature. Part of our Promethean and godlike aspiration to the control of nature is the concomitant obligation to care for nature and to feel nature. So really my message here is a message of feeling. The ideas will come, the ratiocination will come, but what we have to do is feel our dilemma. If we could feel our dilemma and make other people feel our dilemma, we would move rapidly toward real solutions. We are anesthetized. We are a world dying under anesthesia for lack of authentic experience, authentic connection with the living world out of which we came. If we can do this by whatever techniques are available, if we can create a sense of community globally, then attending that sense of community will be a sense of caring and responsibility. It cannot happen unless we change our minds. We have the technologies, the money, the logistical ability to do almost anything in the human world, but we don't know how to change our minds. We are angels with a Siamese twin who is a monkey growing out of our chest. And this was all very fine when there were endless environments to despoil and vast herds of game. That curious amalgam of the animal and the angelic that is our humanness could exist in that kind of an environment, but no more. And for the past 1,000 years, the moral bankruptcy of Western civilization has become more and more apparent. The chickens are coming home to roost. We must build community, and we must do it in a short time. We've lost our compass. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we want to go. Our own lives are an experience of inadequacy and tension. We have lost our compass, but it's there.
After retreats, after intent, each year, heard very many of them. They come, if you have been inside a retreat for, a few days or a week or something, for sure, you have had the darshan of God. You have had the darshan of truth. It has touched something inside you. It has awakened something inside you, and it is calling you back into the heart of being. And because of the directness and the powerfulness, the potency of that inner call, there are forces that operate in the world and certainly inside the human mind and psyche that are going to be on the attack against this. You all know it. We all know it. So each year, or after each retreat or intensive period of satsang, there comes a storm. It is almost predictable that the storm will come and the forces will come in the form of doubt, in the form of mind. Why does it come? It comes because they still remain within us the potential, the capacity and the potential to deviate or to be distracted from your heart's truth and to be pulled into the noise of personhood again. So you are going to have to dig deeper. You're going to have to hold firm to what, not only what I've pointed and what you have heard, but what you have experienced and what you have seen, but that there exists within you a very powerful space that is completely still, unconquerable, unchallengeable, which is infinite, timeless, imperishable, you see. And this is what your life, what your heart is beating for, what the real urge, the real desire in the life of a human being is to discover this. You're in the discovery of this. And that's why these assaults, these attacks are going to come. Don't think, like the mind would like, that these attacks are coming because you're on the wrong path. The attacks are coming because you're on the right path. Because you're on the right path. And sometimes you're this close, you see, to sealing your, confirming your realization. This is why forces have come to sabotage your opportunity for freedom. And let me tell you, they will come. They came for me. They came for every liberated being. Every Buddha, every Christ, every Krishna, every Rama, every Prophet Muhammad, everyone. They have come, and they will come for you. Okay? Once you have conquered them, and how will you conquer them? Not by fighting with them, but by remaining true, remaining in the heart of truth. This is what you are fighting. I have not put swords in your hands and guns and bullets and machetes. I've said simply, remain with God, remain in the truth, remain only as the witness. Don't get identified with these forces. How do they work, these forces? Distracting seekers from completing their realization. Why are they so effective? I will tell you why they are so effective. Because they strike always to the person in you and the capacity in you to be diverted from your divinity and go back into personhood in you. They'll raise up doubts because only the person can be doubt. Only the person can doubt. Only the God in you is without doubt. They will strike at the doubt, at resistances. They'll show you, oh, you're gambling your life away. You're giving it, you're surrendering to some guy. You're not surrendering to some guy. You're surrendering to the almighty power, which is all-pervading, imperishable, everlasting, eternal, true, full of love, complete. You're surrendering to your completeness. So don't fall here. Fall earlier when you're beginning, but don't fall now. Now you have the advantage because you are discovering that your real self is not at some distance from you. It is here. It is not any physical distance from you. It is only a question of subtlety. You see, you are here. The mind wants you to be here, to be there. But you're here. What is it that's here? It has no form. It is not the body that is here. Because you are here, the body is here. It's not because the body is here, you are here. It's because you are here, the body is here, and everything else is here. Okay? So you must confirm this. You, consciousness. Consciousness in its dynamic expression as the pure presence or the sense I am. Watch this feeling I am in you. Don't give it to the mind because the mind will convert it into a person. It is not a person. It is the presence of God. And if you hold to this, what you have seen, not a teaching, I'm not teaching you and learn. I'm pointing you so you discover. And when you discover, you'll see for yourself that no force on earth or in heaven can move you because you're not an object to be moved. In order to be swayed or to be distracted, you have to become something that is distractible. You have to be the mind. You have to be a form. You have to identify. But you are that which watches identification and the tendency to identify. You're behind all of this. But nobody can find you here because you are not the form. And yet you are not dead. You are the source of life itself. You're watching life. But also you get the the sense and the experience of participating in life. And at the same time, you are life. And at the same time, you're the witness of life. You see, these are not things you have to do. Forget about doing anything. Rest only as the self. The purest place where observing of the world, including this body, and the conditioning and the programming that is operating and functioning in this body, that they are also perceived from a space behind. You can say behind. And that space is the space of the self. So I am telling you again, all of you who participated in Rishikesh or in any other retreat with me or anyone who is on a genuine search for the truth, please pay attention to this. Play this video over and over again. You see, saturate your heart with it, your mind with it. Swallow it, eat it, digest it, assimilate it. Be free in it, because it is only here to serve your freedom. Your mind has been with you for a very long time. It doesn't want to part company, and it need not part company. It has to be purified. It has to become a natural mind again. It is very unnatural mind at the moment. It is too personal. And because of the tendency and habit to be personal, the impersonal comes into suffering. And that's what many of you are experiencing. And I don't want to see any of you fall, because if you fall down, if you deviate now, it's going to be more difficult to come back on the path. This is a path that is not a path of miles or kilometers here. It's a path of subtlety, of understanding, of surrender, of insight. And everything is now. You see, like this. Okay? So please be reassured. Please be encouraged. Please be empowered by what I'm pointing you to. Because I'm not telling you go over there and do. I'm saying stay right here, here, here. Let the body go. But you are always here. Stay here. Be present. Be the stillness in this storms of the mind. And it will pass, as all things born of time and shape passes. If you follow me, you will discover you are that everlasting one that never passes. You never pass. You witness the sense of time. The play of time is nothing for you. But time says everything that you perceive through your mind and the senses passes. Everything belongs to me. I eat them. Everything. And I will eat you if you don't find your true nature. I will consume you. I am a cancer that will consume you from inside. But you find this truth that I'm pointing to. You don't have to go to the library or even the temple. There's a temple here. Sit inside the cave in the temple of your own heart, the place that I've pointed you to. And if you're new to this and you're watching this video, go and watch some of Rishikesh. Go and watch any of the videos, because they are all pointing you to the same place, in you. So you stay here. Stay here. For the love of truth, for the love of God, for the love of life, for the love of self. You must defeat this stupid enemy, stupid enemy. You see, because it only derives its strength from your belief and your identity and distraction and interest. So remain as you are, and at every opportunity come and follow the satsangs. Don't think because you're watching on a screen, I don't have enough power. No. It is there through the screen. The consciousness is working through the screen also. It is encouraging the heart. Don't be distracted by the mind. Stay as you are. Okay? So, all power to you. The full blessing of the Holy Spirit of truth firm you up and make its presence known in you. And this will somehow, the mind has to, your psychological personal mind has to become afraid of you. You see? It has to become, it's a bit afraid of me. And this is why it is always attacking at whether Muji is authentic, whether it's true, and always looking for something. Why? Because the pointing is so powerful. I'm not asking you believe. I'm saying follow, look, see, confirm. So these attacks will come, and it will attack any true seeker. If you're not a true seeker, the mind doesn't have to attack you. You're already in its fold. But because you are on the way to success, you will experience these doubts and these things. So all power to you, all grace to you, all love to you. Stay with this. Don't be distracted by foolishness, by gossips and all of these nonsenses. Okay? You be the one that wins yourself back. Namaste.
I realized I had the choice every single day to save over 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forested land, the equivalent of 20 pounds of CO2 in one animal's life, every single day.
Veganism is the most powerful tool that we have for saving our planet, for ending world hunger, for improving our health when we eat health consciously, and for regaining our compassion, for becoming the people that we believe ourselves to be. Good people.
We all say we love animals and we all are against animal cruelty, but we pay people to mutilate, torture, and slaughter animals.
They can sense the fear, they can smell the blood, and they fight. They fight to the end. In my years of being vegan and speaking with many, many non-vegans, I have yet to hear one reason that even comes close to justifying putting a sentient being through what we just watched. Not one.
And it's not for any necessity. It's not because we need to for our health. It's just because we like the way they taste.
And these creatures have never harmed you, violated you, or taken advantage of you in any way, shape, or form. The least you can do is return the favor.
I'm a vegan, which means I don't participate in any animal exploitation or cruelty. I don't consume any animal products. And I wanted to show people through my journey and my writing on the blog just how easy that is to do.
Yeah, right.
How healthy it is.
These are the top 15 causes of death, the top 15 reasons Americans die. And a plant-based diet can help prevent nearly all of them, can help treat more than half of them, and in some cases even reverse the progression of disease, including our top 3 killers.
And our Cornell and Harvard say that the optimum amount of meat in a healthy human diet is precisely 0.
They're killing you, they're killing the animals, and they're killing this planet.
We don't need to eat animals. We benefit in every conceivable way from not eating them.
This is a chance for a personal revolution to leave your mark on this planet by causing the least amount of harm possible.
As I travel around the world, I see poor countries who sell their grain to the West while their own children starve in their arms, and the West feeds it to livestock.
And good people don't take food from the mouths of starving children. Good people don't destroy the planet, leaving our children futureless. Good people don't kill newborn babies. Good people don't rape, torture, or murder. Yet good people everywhere are doing all of these things with every single bite. But we have the power to stop all of this, and that is the beauty of veganism. It happens on an individual basis.
And here's something you could stand up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a day and say, I'm opposed to discrimination. I'm opposed to injustice. And that's why I'm eating vegan meals. This is something you can actually do.
You are the change. You decide what goes in your body. You decide whether you want to continue to have others kill for you. You decide whether you want to continue consuming death, terror, and heartbreak. You decide. And my hope is that you'll decide to go vegan.
Anyone hear the slogan? Mike will get it done. Let me tell you what the it.
That's the facts. For everyone just to be honest about the reality of what we've created. And I still think the animal issue is enough. To think we have such a thing called a slaughterhouse? Where people are employed to grab an animal, use electric prods to force it to go where they want, to jam bolts in their heads, to slice their throats up, hang them from chains and watch them die as blood drips out of their throat and their legs kick desperately. To think that even exists in the numbers that it does. What I'm talking about is a few bad people around that do that. We're talking about this is the norm. If we can't stop and look at that and say, holy crap, what have we done? If we can't face that, we will not be able to face anything. And that can only happen if we forget the past, because in the past is where all of our justifications were created. That's why it's like that. So the past creates a deluded sense of glasses to look through, and then we can tell ourselves anything. I guarantee you, if you could just plonk everyone completely in this moment, but not in a moment for self-indulgent, like is living in the now, where we're like, you know, oh, I just can be happy and free, and, you know, they don't run around being compassionate. I'm talking about living in the now via looking at the truth and how ugly it has become. That's a different kind of being in the now. That's a wake-up being in the now. I'm convinced that would do it if we just look. Forget theories, forget philosophies, forget possibilities, forget psychology, forget everything. Just honestly look at what we have done. Because I think deep down everyone cares, because you can see they care for certain things. So the caring is there. They would like to care. They would like to be loved. They would like to give love. Every living being, you can see that. Every animal, you give it a chance to be loved, it just laps it up. It loves it, and it loves the whole process. Everything does. But we'll never ever feel that or share that if we're not prepared to look at the insane cruelty that we've created on this planet.
Statistics show that as many as 140 billion animals are killed every year for human consumption as food, clothing, entertainment and research. The overwhelming majority of these animals are forced to live in horrendous conditions. Yet even those that are so-called free range or raised on organic farms are still subjected to be killed against their will. No living creature wishes to die, and death is arguably the greatest fear of any human. Yet we subject 3 billion living creatures every week to our most feared fate. We unnecessarily feed and clothe ourselves and our children with the products of cruel and violent habits.
Crowded by the
over here on
If you say you need meat and dairy, stop lying. Stop caring about yourself and the steaks you're buying. Start caring for the billions that are dying. We're all bad, but as vegan, at least you're trying.
This is how slaves are treated. You don't really think that slaves get treated nicely, do you? You really think white people were nice when they shipped black people over here on ships? You don't think Nazis were nice when they walked Jews and gypsies into the gas chambers, do you? And this happens because you want to buy those products. Yeah, that guy's a scumbag for doing that. But he's doing that because you want to eat what comes out of her body. Give it up. It's not cute, and it's not funny. Because animals are being abused. It is not your right, it is not your freedom to do this to them. You don't get to have freedom when somebody else doesn't. That's a violation.
That what?
Humans love, according to EU, is a food, and while organic more resources than conventional meat production. So buying organic is still animals will probably be one of the things future generations will look down on it. The truth is, if suffering were a resource, we would create billions of tons of it per year. The way we treat animals will probably be one of the things future generations will look down on in disgust. Create billions of tons of it per year. The way we treat animals will probably be one of the things future generations will look down on in disgust. While
You do not know where your decisions come from. They pop up like hiccups. And when you make a decision, people have a great deal of anxiety about making decisions. Did I think this over long enough? Did I take enough data into consideration? And if you think it through, you find you never could take enough data into consideration. The data for a decision in any given situation is infinite. So what you do is, you go through the motions of thinking out what you will do about this. But warriors are people who think of all the variables beyond their control and what might happen.
Choice is the act of hesitation that we make before making a decision. It is a mental wobbling. And so we are always in a dither of doubt as to whether we're behaving the right way, doing the right thing, and so on and so on, and lack a certain kind of self-confidence. You have to regard yourself as a cloud in the flesh, because you see, clouds never make mistakes. Did you ever see a cloud that was misshapen? Did you ever see a badly designed wave? No, they always do the right thing. But if you will treat yourself for a while as a cloud or wave and realize that you can't make a mistake, whatever you do, because even if you do something that seems to be totally disastrous, it'll all come out in the wash somehow or other. Then, through this capacity, you will develop a kind of confidence. And through confidence, you will be able to trust your own intuition. Now, this is the middle way of knowing it has nothing to do with your decision to do this or not. Whether you decide that you can't make a mistake or whether you don't decide it, it's true anyway. You are like cloud and water. And through that realization, without overcompensating in the other direction, you will come to the point where you begin to be on good terms with your own being and to be able to trust your own brain.
Each of these lives is the right one. Every path is the right path. Everything could have been anything else. And it will have just as much.
On the planet is quite a heavy vibration because it's so thickly, so dense with personal identity. And personal identity is inclined towards selfishness. It perceives strongly through the paradigm of me and mine, and very individual, very self-seeking, you see. Where it is a person, love is not in its highest expression. The love, when it works through the person, seems also to be a bit selfish, a bit myopic, limited. But the capacity, the potential of the human spirit is enormous. I see presently we are in a web of strong psychological energy, and it manifests sometimes in the things that gives us so much pain. We are not being punished for being here or for the life that you're experiencing, you see. It's more opportunity for growing from this, because the consciousness is using each form somewhat to experience the sense of transcendence and growth and understanding. So this is where I would put really the power of duality, you know, the sense of experiencing and of, you know, discriminating and discerning what is true for untrue, what is real for unreal, and so on. What is I and other, and if these I and other, if it is ultimate, if it is final, if it is a fact, or is it really just a kind of like an exercise for the consciousness? Is it a kind of mirroring, a dynamic mirroring that happens over time and culture for the consciousness to experience the sense of growth or transcendence, you see? It is not helpful to think that one is being punished for things. At a certain point, you will see that your life does not have just one reading. It's like a potential. It can be read in different ways according to the temperament and capacity of the onlooker. And sometimes you yourself can be the onlooker to your own life. You're not sort of like wrapped up inside your life like you're a parcel or something. Sometimes you can look, and this is what meditation and contemplation, self-inquiry helps us to look from outside the box being our conditioning, psychological conditioning and so on, our belief systems and identities and so on, that we can look at that almost from a distance with some sense of objectivity, you know, like you look from an objective place. There's no truly objective place. It's mostly subjective. When the subject is a person, then the subjectivity is not pure. When the subject is the self or the consciousness, everything seems different, lighter, and transparent and fluid. It is not helpful to think that you're responsible for life. Life is flowing on, flowing. It was already flowing before humankind made our appearance here. So obviously we were not there to look after it in the beginning, and I don't know if we're doing so well looking after it now. It's a bit of an arrogance to think Mother Earth looks after us, God looks after us also. You can say that that's one level of looking. There are other levels, and then my hope is to bring you to a levelless place, a place where the mind is not the measuring stick for life anymore. That you are the life, and the vital force is the pulse of life. You are the witness of this life, the experiencer of this life. But with less and less personal attachments or needs, the life becomes something very beautiful. It becomes light and open, full of wonder and the joy of God. We're all of this. You're not separate from it. But at different stages, it will have a different feeling. Sometimes you have to feel separate from it. Then you have to feel again you're one with it. And then you may come to a point where you're beyond all the notions that we use to measure or to evaluate or to have a sense of what life is, mostly interpret, you know. So it is a divine adventure, you know. This existence, you can say. And the more you discover the truth, the more life will be beautiful for you. And it will be beautiful for you, it will be beautiful for others, because when you're in your beauty, in your peace, beauty meaning here peace, not facial features, but beauty means in your light, in your truth, in your understanding, standing in the heart of love, then it radiates. This is the power of the love, of wisdom. It radiates, not necessarily deliberately. It just radiates, just like it's like the sun is just radiating. It's not putting energy to do that. It's the nature of the sun to radiate. And we're like somehow like balls of radiation of God's energy and love, and, wisdom, you see. And everything that comes into your orbit is touched and enlivened, so to speak, enriched, empowered by the presence of that love and that truth. So it's not a small adventure. It all depends on where the mind and where the identity is placed. If it is placed as a person, it will somehow confine, restrict, and limit the sense of this love. But the love is limitless. You see, the sense of the person feels like a contraction in the great expanse. But that contraction is not from the cosmic point of view. It's a small thing. Person as a concept is a small thing, actually. And you are shedding personhood. Love helps you to shed it beautifully. And to, again, move even in this body, you see. To move with the God light, with the Christ light. Shiva being, whatever name, there are many names. They all point to the same thing. The names are many. Isn't it? The names are many. Like maybe sometimes we have so many words for one thing. That's what the thesaurus is, isn't it? There's so many words for one thing. And sometimes we feel we're talking about different things. The mind sometimes tricks us, into feeling that we're talking about different things, different gods, different energies, different. It's all the same. We're all the same. We're all the same. It is all the same. This is all the same one. And when you can begin to appreciate it, to see this, you will feel the oneness, and not separate from the oneness, but at some point you will move beyond the concept of oneness. Just forget about it altogether. The life is not trying to remember itself. It doesn't need that. It's far too fresh sometimes for memory. But memory is part of the great dance, part of the great feeling. And all of this can be included, but not exclusively. You see? So, thank you.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
science will secure before its transformation, and it's a very important one. It's that nature is self-similar across scale. This is something that couldn't have been said even 10 years ago. Nature is self-similar across scale. This is big news, big understanding. And what does it mean? Well, it means, I'm sure you all have pondered the similarity between the structure of an atom, a galaxy, and a solar system. And if you inquired about this, you were told it's coincidence. Well, P.W. Bridgman is the person who pointed out that a coincidence is what you have left over when you apply a bad theory. You see? So, until 10 years ago, when you asked this question, you would be told it's a coincidence. It's easy to make a scientific revolution. I can remember when I was about 9, there are transactions, there are meetings and dissolutions. We live in a busy, busy, busy world. As you journey backward in time, the world becomes less and less busy. And when you leave the domain of organic evolution, the world becomes boring as hell. And when you go further back to the period before even molecular chemistry, it's so boring one can barely compose a comment. So infused with ennui is the observer in the contemplation of the scene. But science has never inculcated this observation into its model of reality. We're told time is invariant. Therefore, this notion of speeding up or of complexity in some parts of time and not in others, it must be an artifact of observation. It must be an illusion or a mistake. It isn't real. But I maintain it is one of the most persistent facts about reality. And I've spoken of it here in terms of things get simpler as you go backward in time. We could stand that on its head and point out that things get more complex as you move forward in time. And that means that this moment is the most complex moment the universe has ever known, at least the local universe. That means, in a way, if the universe started at the Big Bang, it ends right here, right now, what I call local now, because the rest of time has not yet undergone the formality of occurring. So here we are, the inheritors of the Big Bang, standing in the ultra-complex local now. Now, what do I mean by complex? Well, on the platform of cellular evolution arose higher animals, complex ecosystems. On the platform of that arose early human culture. Upon that platform rose late human culture, including ourselves, including technology. My point here that I want to try to sell you on is that nature is a novelty-conserving engine of some sort. That far from being a random process driven toward entropy by the second law of thermodynamics, nature is a process of complexification. That whenever this process is dealt a blow, it immediately sets out to recover and surpass whatever previous level of complexification it had attained. Well, now, the important thing about this, other than just its intrinsic importance for people doing philosophy, is that it holds out the possibility of a theory of ethics
because we are the most complex phenomenon that we know of on this planet. Now, there you may edge forward in your seat, ready to spring forward with some objection, but give me a moment here. Complexity is a tricky concept to define, first of all, to define mathematically or any other way. Norbert Wiener and some of those people spent some time on this. But intuitively, I think it's a pretty straightforward concept. The way I define complexity is density of connections. If point A has 16 connecting points, it is less complex than point B with 32 connecting points. That seems fairly clear. You would have an uphill battle to argue against that. Some weasel might, but who knows? I mean, hell, you can't get consensus on what time it is. But if nature is a novelty-conserving engine, if that's what nature treasures, then we are not the chance witnesses of an existential universe. We are, in fact, all God's children in some sense. In other words, we represent the quintessent gathering together of novelty. We are more than mere matter. We are more than mere biology. We are more than mere aboriginal culture. We are all of those things, plus we are our technical, our skin of technical connections, our extruded culture, our fecal coral reef of transistors, resistors, transponders, databases, and transmission systems. All of that is superimposed on the organic. So suddenly, this message that has been relatively ignored by secular intellectuals for 500 years, the message of our importance in the divine plan gets a real leg up. The puzzle then is, if we're the part of the universe where value has come to rest in the process of compressing complexity, then why is it that in practical terms we seem like a loaded gun held at the head of the planet? In other words, all other systems and processes seem to have been put at risk to achieve this thin and wavering spire of complexification that threatens to come down around our ears at any moment and send us back to the 14th century, if not the Stone Age, if we mismanage ourselves. Well, I think that we need to look at this process from the broadest possible perspective and try to decondition ourselves from the assumptions of science. Every theory has what I call a hard swallow. I mean, because every theory is horseshit in some sense. I mean, truth is known in silence. So if you're going out of that area, you should expect some rather peculiar blemishes on the enterprise. So every theory has a hard swallow. Science, their hard swallow is what's called the Big Bang. The idea that the universe sprang from nothing for no reason whatsoever in a single moment. So notice that whether you find that persuasive or not, it is the limit test for credulity. Do you understand what I mean? I mean, if you will believe that, what would you dig in your heels on? I mean, if you would believe that, then my family has a bridge over the Hudson River that we are willing to let go for a song. And you could really get in on something good there. The Big Bang is completely improbable, utterly improbable. It is the most improbable of all improbabilities. So just remember that when the fascism of science is telling you that astrologers don't know what they're talking about and somebody else doesn't know what they're talking about. I mean, science has built a house of cards on worse than sand, quicksand. I would like to propose a completely different theory, which sounds, I know, far-fetched, but I think it answers certain problems that can't be reasonably dealt with otherwise. I would like to propose that the universe is headed toward a singularity. Not that it was born in a singularity and has been blasted outward with the unraveling of the laws of physics ever since, but rather the idea that the universe is not a purposeless explosion running down into entropy, but in fact the universe is some kind of process that is running along fairly well-defined runnels, or what the British biologist C.H. Waddington called creodes. In other words, it is not, again, it is not a flat surface over which we are free to lurch and careen in some kind of random walk or parody of Brownian motion. It isn't that at all. It is a topology. It is a surface, a slalom, whose high walls confine us as we move deeper and deeper into the process of complexification. And we move into that process faster and faster and faster. And this is where it gets woo-woo, because I am, willing to say I'm convinced, anyway. I'm willing to say I'm convinced that history is the enunciation of the nearby presence of a transformational event. In other words, a planet without history is what you get if it's business as usual. The chipmunks dig their burrows, the hummingbirds fertilize the nectar, the trumpet flowers, the ants dig out the ground. Everything proceeds normally. History is what happens when an animal species has its genome distorted by the nearby presence of a transcendental object. It only lasts 12 to 15 If the life of this planet were a city block, history would be as thick as a piece of typing paper. That's how long it lasts. And yet, this is all we've ever known, the inside of this transitory domain called history. And without thinking about it very much, our secular society tells us to assume it will go on forever. Assume it will go on forever. That's a bigger stretch than the Big Bang for me. I cannot see how anyone could assume that human history will go on, not forever, but let's say as long as it has gone on. Can anyone imagine the next 10,000 years of technological development and global civilization? It's a joke. Can anyone imagine the next 1,000?
I realized I had the choice every single day to save over 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forested land, the equivalent of 20 pounds of CO2, and one animal's life every single day.
Veganism is the most powerful tool that we have for saving our planet, for ending world hunger, for improving our health when we eat health consciously, and for regaining our compassion, for becoming the people that we believe ourselves to be, good people.
We all say we love animals, and We all are against animal cruelty, but we pay people to mutilate, torture, and slaughter animals.
They can sense the fear, they can smell the blood, and they fight. They fight to the end. In my years of being vegan and speaking with many, many non-vegans, I have yet to hear one reason that even comes close to justifying putting a sentient being through what we just watched. Not one.
And it's not for any necessity. It's not because we need to for our health. It's just because we like the way they taste.
And these creatures have never harmed you, violated you, or taken advantage of you in any way, shape, or form. The least you can do is return the favor.
I'm a vegan, which means I don't participate in any animal exploitation or cruelty. I don't consume any animal products. And I wanted to show people through my journey and my writing on the blog just how easy that is to do, how healthy it is.
These are the top 15 causes of death, the top 15 reasons Americans die. And a plant-based diet can help prevent nearly all of them, can help treat more than half of them, and in some cases even reverse the progression of disease, including our top 3 killers.
And our Cornell and Harvard say that the optimal amount of meat in a healthy human diet is precisely 0.
They're killing you, they're killing the animals, and they're killing this planet.
We don't need to eat animals. We benefit in every conceivable way from not eating them.
This is a chance for a personal revolution, to leave your mark on this planet by causing the least amount of harm possible.
As I travel around the world, I see poor countries who sell their grain to the West while their own children starve in their arms, and the West feeds it to livestock.
And good people don't take food from the mouths of starving children. Good people don't destroy the planet, leaving our children futureless. Good people don't kill newborn babies. Good people don't rape, torture, or murder. Yet good people everywhere are doing all of these things with every single bite. But we have the power to stop all of this, and that is the beauty of veganism. It happens on an individual basis.
And here's something you could stand up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a day and say, I'm opposed to discrimination. I'm opposed to injustice. And that's why I'm eating vegan meals. This is something you can actually do.
You are the change. You decide what goes in your body. You decide whether you want to continue to have others kill for you. You decide whether you want to continue consuming death, terror, and heartbreak. You decide. And my hope is that you'll decide to go vegan.
I really hope you make the right choice.
To the light, smoking good dank, yeah, nigga, this must be life. Oh, we making moves, you niggas thought we was fine. Nah, nigga, go hard for my nigga till we don't count figures down, looking fuck livers on my niggas know. 2 blunts, 4 strands in the middle though. We get new knowledge from the motherfucking reaper smoke. Born to lead a generation through storm, and the time so hard, why you niggas go soft? Change your dreams, my nigga, puff your weed, my nigga, get high, not low. Hustle in the summer till the motherfucking winter, and my flow go hard like a motherfucking mission. You can catch me in the trap with the hustlers and the killers, put it on for my city like we entered the Olympics. Ripping up on my gang, when we bout that love, we don't bang. Let's a heathen step out his lane, then you know them hammers gon' ring. Nah, fuck that, nigga, get your brain up. And if you can't get with them, get your paper. And if you can't get both chain purple, feeling like a Laker. Even trying to get a nigga, but they never shake us. And see winning out here till they hit us. But we the realest motherfucker, no makeup. Second to the life, fearing not the creators. Ain't no debating who is the greatest. It is up in your heart, nigga. Go out, create it. Get out the matrix while you stuck in the dark, nigga.
New Colgate Optic White Renewal removes 10 years of yellow stains. That's like all the way back to 2010.
What's that? It's a shake weight. It's a weight you shake.
Remove 10 years of yellow stains with new Colgate Optic White Renewal.
While all these things are true, 1 square meter of space with buying organic is still preferable, and love creates joy. So, or absolution. The truth is, if suffering were a resource, we would create billions of tons of it per year. The way we treat animals will probably be one of the things future generations will look down on in disgust. While all these find ways to cheat the absolution. The truth is, if suffering were a resource, we would create billions of tons of it per year. The way we treat animals will probably be one of the things future generations will look down on in disgust. That's 20. Our meaty diet is literally eating up the planet. Why is that? And what can we do about it without giving up steak? Humans keep a lot of animals for food. Currently, about 23 billion chickens, 1.5 billion cattle, and roughly 1 billion pigs and sheep. That's a lot of mouths to feed, so we've transformed Earth into a giant feeding ground. 83% of its farmland is used for livestock, for example as pasture, and to farm fodder crops like corn and soy. That's 26% of Earth's total land area. If we include the water we need for these plants, meat and dairy production accounts for 27% of global fresh water consumption. Unfortunately, meat production is like a black hole for resources. Since animals are living things, most of their food is used to keep them alive while they grow their tasty parts. Only a fraction of the nutrients from fodder crops end up in the meat we buy in the end. Cows, for example, convert only about 4% of the proteins and 3% of the calories of the plants we feed to them into beef. More than 97% of the calories are lost to us. To create 1 kilogram of steak, a cow needs to eat up to 25 kilos of grain and uses up to 15,000 liters of water. Animal products are guzzling up tons of food, but they only make up 18% of the calories humans eat. According to projections, we could nourish an additional 3.5 billion people if we just ate the stuff we feed to animals.
Today we're going to talk on ships. It's get treated nicely, do you?
If you say you need meat and dairy, stop lying. Stop caring about yourself and the steaks you're buying. Start caring for the billions that are dying. We're all bad, but as vegan, at least you're trying.
This is how slaves are treated. You don't really think that slaves get treated nicely, do you? You really think white people were nice when they shipped black people over here on ships? You don't think Nazis were nice when they walked Jews and gypsies into the gas chambers, do you? And this happens because you want to buy those products. Yeah, that guy's a scumbag for doing that. But he's doing that because you want to eat what comes out of her body. Give it up.
Most people live their lives turning their backs on things too difficult to face. Ignoring what hurts you eventually becomes a habit, the natural thing to do. If we only allow ourselves to see what we want to see, we just end up clouding our visions more and more until eventually we become so blind to the horrible truths around us that we just stop caring. This is the story that no one wants to hear. No one wants to think about it, because it's easier to sleep at night without having to confront reality. And who wants to do that when it makes us realize how selfish our species has become? I went to a slaughterhouse to see the pigs before they were driven in to be killed. More than 56 billion farmed animals are killed every year in the meat, dairy and egg industries, and these are all individuals. Innocent beings raised as commodities, exploited all their lives so their bodies and secretions can become products. I've spent a lot of time watching and editing through graphic footage of animals being abused and killed. I thought I'd become numb to their suffering, but looking into their eyes broke me. To connect with a being in their final moments is one of the hardest things to deal with. You can see the pain and desperation, and feel the fear of someone who doesn't want to die, who never felt happiness and was never shown love, torn away from their families and never given a chance to be free. I'm haunted by the terrified pigs who I couldn't save, and had to watch drive away, staring at me. Hungry, thirsty, tired creatures who became corpses later that day. I heard the screams of death in the distance, and knew that that would soon be them. Knowing there was nothing I could do to save them left me so hopeless. And the worst thing about it is that we know this is happening every single day, but choose to ignore it. And honestly believe that if most people had to look into the eyes of the victims on their way to be killed, they wouldn't be able to do it. No animal wants to die. We all know that. But we pay people to mutilate, torture and slaughter them, just because we like the way they taste. We've been so distracted by our iPhones and TVs that we've lost our humanity. We've forgotten what it really means to have love and respect. And I just hope the world will wake up and realize we don't need to do this to them to live a happy, healthy life. I couldn't save those pigs, and they're probably already in a supermarket right now. So I'm telling their story because I know that some people need to hear it. Some people need to see how their choices affect others. And once you know, you have to change.
The past is not something we...
In the next few minutes, you will be given an eye-opening look behind the closed doors of modern farms, hatcheries, and slaughter plants, revealing the journey that animals make from farm to fridge. For nearly their entire 4-month pregnancies, mother sows are locked in narrow metal stalls barely larger than their own bodies. Many of the animals develop open sores and scratches. Workers often kick, hit, and yell at pigs to move them. Soon after birth, piglets are castrated by workers who cut into their skin and rip out their testicles. Next, the workers chop off their tails. Both of these painful procedures are nearly always done without anesthesia. Many animals die from botched mutilations. Piglets who become sick or injured or who are not growing quickly enough are killed. Common killing methods include throwing animals into bins and painfully gassing them with carbon dioxide. Others are killed by being slammed headfirst into the ground. At a factory farm in Ohio, workers killed injured sows by hanging them on a forklift to be slowly strangled to death, a practice defended by the pork industry. Pigs raised for meat typically live only 5 to 6 months, a mere fraction of their natural lifespan, in overcrowded pens like this. Workers frequently tattoo the animals with ID numbers by hitting them with metal-spiked mallets. Once pigs have reached market weight, they are sent to slaughter. At the slaughterhouse, pigs are knocked in the head with a steel rod, hung upside down, and have their throats slit. Improper stunning condemns many pigs to having their throats slit while they are fully conscious and suffering. Others are even scalded alive in the hair removal tanks. From the moment they hatch, the egg industry subjects chicks to horrors few of us can even imagine. At the hatchery, workers quickly and roughly sort the males from the females. Because male chicks don't lay eggs and do not grow quickly enough to be raised profitably for meat, they are killed within hours after hatching. Male chicks are typically thrown into giant grinding machines while still alive. This practice is deemed standard and acceptable by the egg industry. Another killing method is to drop male chicks into trash bags to be smothered or suffocated. More than 200 million unwanted male chicks are killed on their first day of life each year in the United States. The females have it even worse, destined for a life of prolonged cruelty. To reduce pecking induced by overcrowded living conditions, blade or laser to remove part of the chick's beaks. This mutilation can cause both acute and chronic pain. After debeaking, the birds are moved to cages where they will spend the rest of their lives. Nearly 95% of egg-laying hens spend their lives confined in tiny wire cages like this. Most birds never see sunlight or breathe fresh air. They are packed so tightly they cannot even spread their wings, walk, or turn around without pushing other birds aside. The harsh and unrelenting environment of the cage takes its toll, often leading to severe feather loss, open wounds, and birds trapped in cage wire. For many hens, the stressful confinement is too much, leading to premature death. Undercover investigations at egg farms from coast to coast have revealed a culture of cruelty and neglect, including workers stomping on birds, throwing live hens on dead piles and in trash cans, and painfully mangling bird spines in botched attempts to break their necks. At 1 or 2 years of age, when a hen's egg production begins to decline, she is violently ripped from her cage. Workers often fling the birds into metal carts where they are painfully suffocated with carbon dioxide. Crowded by the thousands into filthy sheds, chickens and turkeys are denied many of their most basic natural behaviors and needs, such as fresh air and exercise. Through genetic selection, chickens and turkeys raised for meat have been bred to grow so large so quickly that many suffer crippling leg disorders, chronic joint pain, and even fatal heart attacks. Sick or injured birds often have their necks broken. Others are clubbed to death. Those who live to reach market weight are thrown into transport crates and loaded onto trucks bound for slaughter plants. Handling is often violent and frequently causes bruises, broken bones, and other injuries. At the slaughter plant, the birds are dumped from their crates, then roughly snapped upside down into moving shackles by their fragile legs. From there, the birds are dragged through an electrified vat of water which renders them paralyzed, but not necessarily unconscious. They are then pulled across a blade which slices their throats, causing blood to pour from their necks. Some of the birds who miss the blade have their throats slit or their heads ripped off by a backup killer. Other birds are drowned and scalded in the tanks of hot water designed to loosen the bird's feathers. Cows produce milk for the same reasons that humans do, to nourish their young. But calves on dairy farms are dragged away from their mothers and violently killed, all so that humans can have the milk instead. The majority of today's dairy cows are confined on factory farms. Some spend almost their entire lives standing on concrete floors. Others are crammed into massive mud lots. Workers subject young cows to painful mutilations and amputations. Here, a worker cuts off a cow's tail, slicing through her sensitive skin, nerves, and bone without any painkillers. Another routine practice is dehorning, burning into the calves' skulls to remove their budding horns. Painkillers are rarely used. A 2010 undercover investigation at a dairy farm in Ohio revealed a farm worker stabbing cows with pitchforks, beating them in the head with crowbars, and punching baby calves. Injuries and illness often run rampant in filthy, disease-ridden factory farm environments. Cows too sick or injured to stand are called downers and are often left to slowly suffer and die from their injuries. At a fraction of their natural lifespan, the so-called spent dairy cows are prodded onto transport trucks and shipped to slaughterhouses. An undercover investigation at a slaughterhouse in California revealed downed dairy cows being kicked, shocked, pushed with forklifts, and water hosed in the mouth and nostrils in an effort to get them to the kill floor. Most cattle raised for beef endure several mutilations without painkillers, including castration and hot iron branding. Most spend the last few months of their lives in overcrowded feedlots, standing in their own waste. Unreliable, stunning practices at the slaughterhouse condemn many cattle to having their throats cut, their limbs hacked off while still alive and conscious. Undercover investigations at kosher slaughterhouses